Hello and welcome to the 500 Workshop. Today is our final episode on our engine build. So everything's done and dusted, but we're just going to review really quickly the engine blueprint that we created and the head blueprint that was also created during the build, and we're going to look at the overall cost of our build. So here is our engine blueprint. Now, we looked at this before briefly in another episode, but I just want to cover it again so you all know what we've built. The purpose of this blueprint is really so we can tell what all our measurements were during the build. So if there is ever a problem with the engine again, or we want to take it out and check things, we can see if there's been wear and where the wear has occurred. But also, we can make sure that we've done a good build and that everything has good clearances and was within the tolerances. Now, whether you're building an engine yourself or it's being built by an engine builder, what I'd say is always ask for a copy of the blueprint. It validates that they've done all the measurements and they've done a good job, and it also gives you confidence and if you go to sell it, or if you have future work done on it where you were when you started. So definitely worth doing. So here we have our spec. So it was a 499cc spec. We've upgraded it to a 540cc. These were with high compression pistons, and we replaced the piston liner as well. We've also got a new camshaft with a ratio of 30-70 and some hardened tappets on that as well. The measurements are all in inches, and we're basically measuring the cylinders and the pistons, the crankshaft, the con rods, the piston rings, and the camshaft. Some of these have specified tolerances in our workshop manual, some don't. Where they don't, you're looking pretty much for consistency and small clearances, so that you know they're good. So for instance, with our cylinders, we should measure the piston bottom and the cylinder bore, and our clearance is only 0.003 of an inch, which is small, but also consistent across the two cylinders, which is what we would want. Crankshaft, so here again we're looking at the clearance is the main shell bearing minus the crankshaft main, and we've got two ends, so we've got the chain end and the flywheel end. Now the bottom one is marginally out of tolerance, but 0.0002 of an inch is indefinitely small, so we weren't concerned at all about that. For most of the rest of the measurements, as you can see, they're all good and within tolerance. On the camshaft, there are some slight differences to tolerance, but actually that's on the measurements. When you get, and again they're very small, but when you get to the actual clearance itself, which is the important measurement, they are both within tolerance. So overall, we know we've built a consistent, good engine. So here's the head blueprint. It's new old stock head that we bought for a 499cc F engine. New valves as well, but all other components were reused. Because it was a new head, it had no engineering work done to it before, which was quite nice. So it allowed us to do some kind of porting work, and also it allowed us to kind of cut the seats to the opening that we wanted and the throat that we wanted. And Nathan collected all this data during the build around the inlet and exhaust valves and exactly what the openings were and what we should be aiming for. And it allowed us to record the seat cuts that we made and the dimensions of those. And it also allowed us to work out the opening of the cylinders. So under certain compression, you'd expect the inlet and exhaust for cylinder 1 and cylinder 2 to open at a certain kind of pressure. And what we found was the exhausts were opening under too little pressure. So we added shims in to kind of bring them up to the level where we wanted them. So this is another interesting sheet of information that allows us to show exactly what we've done and capture kind of the changes we made. We've got our engine budget, which I'm sure is the piece that you're all interested in understanding how much I've actually spent building this engine. So this budget, it does include VAT, doesn't include any tools that I bought, of which there were a few, and all the cleaning products, consumables, of which there are many of those as well. So I probably spent somewhere in the region of £300 on tools and cleaning products. There's a lot of cleaning to do, and I wanted to do it properly. And there was a few tools. I just love tools, so I'm always buying them. And if there was one that I felt I needed that would help me, then I went and bought it. First, we're going to look at the bits that we outsourced. So these are the bits that I didn't do myself or couldn't do myself or wanted some assistance to make sure I did it properly. So we've got the blasting powder coating for the tinware. That's 200. We had the blueprinting, which obviously we've just gone through, which was 162. We then needed the flywheel skimming and the head skimming. That was done by LF Engine Services, 48 and 42. T&L Engineering worked on our crankshaft to polish that and clean it. They did the small end bearings, and they did some of the crankcase work as well. Then Classic Car Solutions did some of the build. And when we talk about the build, they obviously didn't put it all together for me. We're talking about the work they've done on the head here. So the porting and the various valve seating, and also they helped seat the pistons as well, because I was struggling with that and I'd already broken a piston ring. So that turned out to be a little bit more fiddly than I was expecting. And then we had some problems with the starting. Now, part of that was because the belt pulley oil centrifuge was wrong, mismanufactured. Fiat Classic kindly replaced that, but also I'd put the engine together slightly incorrectly, which meant we had no oil pressure. So that was an extra expense that I was not expecting at the end there. So subtotal of those works was 1,720. If I was to rebuild it, a new engine again, obviously I'm pretty sure that I could save some of the monies on that. I'd definitely do the blueprinting again, but it depends how far you want to go and what you're doing with an engine in reality to how much you're going to spend. In parts wise, so all the parts were, all the kind of pistons and the camshaft and various other bits like that were provided by Nani in Italy. They were £536. Ricambio provided pretty much, that's Ricambio in the UK, international. They provided a lot of the smaller parts, so, and these things add up, by the way, so you can see as I scroll down the list of things that we had to buy from Ricambio, and these are all bolt studs, suction seals. So there's so many things here. There's a couple of more expensive bits that I decided to replace as well. So exhaust elbow manifolds, I decided to do that. That was £63. But it's surprising, you kind of add all these to your basket, and they don't seem like they should come to much, but in the end obviously they come to a fair bit of money. We got the belt oil pulley from Fiat Classic, as I mentioned. eBay, we got our new head, that was from Italy as well, hence the expensive shipping charge. And then we got our pushrod tubes from Fiat 500 spare parts. So we're looking at a total cost, not including the tools and cleaning products, of £3,331.42, which is a fair bit of money, probably more than I initially expected to spend, if I'm honest. But what I got for that is an engine that I've got completely recorded, both from a blueprint perspective, but also actually video recorded. I've learned so much through the process. I now know so much. Some of these costs I could probably save in future. But I also know that I've got a quality engine build, and hopefully it will last for a number of years to come. Just want to say a big thank you for all the services that helped me build this engine and the parts suppliers. A special shout out to Nathan from Classic Car Solutions. He was awesome and really has taught me a lot through this process. And big thank you to anyone who's watching this engine series as well. I appreciate it.